Welcome back. This is video number 6 as we set up our review for our midterm exam. This video will feature the problems from Unit 6 on the review stack. So we're going to talk about simple interest. Some of these are pretty clean and easy to do. A lot of counting in terms of days. So here we go. Number 25, going to borrow $15,000, going to pay it back at one shot 9 months later. Interest rate at 6%. So it's a straight shot. Make sure that you realize that since we're dealing with months, the 9 months is actually 9/12 of a year. So it's straight principal times rate times time. 15,000 times 0.06. Time playing at 9/12. Punch some numbers. 15,000 times 0.06 times 9 divided by 12. That's the easiest way, I think. $675 interest. To wipe out the loan, to clear the loan, you will have to pay back the 15 grand that were initially borrowed and the 675 for interest charge. So the last answer for problem 25, to wipe out the loan, it'll take $15,675. The principal plus the interest is your end wipeout value. Problem 26, a lot of numbers to play in terms of dates. The loan is taken out on September 12th. And it's going to be repaid on January 27th. And we've been asked in this problem to use ordinary interest as it relates to days. So I'll put 360 in your denominator when we get to time. So let's find days, okay? We're realizing that the repayment happens on January 27th. And the loan was taken out on the 12th of September. So you see on the stack of days, there will be 18 more days in September to get to the end of the month. All of October is 31 more days. All of November is 30 more days. All of December is 31 more days. The payment's being made on the 27th of January. So it'll be 27 days into January. So we're going to stack that column and add it. And that is 137 days after the initial loan is taken that we will be repaying. So as we get a value for time, it's 137 over 360 because we were asked to use ordinary interest. So again, straight plug and chug, 3,000 is your borrowed amount, 8% is your interest charge, time in at 137 over 360. If I'm calculating, I'm going to take 3,000 times 0.08 times 137, and that's straight divide by 360 after that. $91.33 will be the interest charge on this particular loan. All right, so to clear the loan, as we saw on the last problem, you have to pay back the 3,000 that you borrowed in addition to the $91.33. So to wipe out the loan, it'll be $33,091.33. That, my friends, ends problem 26. 27 asks us to figure out how much we borrowed if we have information about how many days transpired between the beginning of the loan and the payment, and we're given information about the interest charge and the interest rate. So again, your days pertinent to this problem, you're over there relative to March, and you see that the loan was taken out on March 17th. So the 14 you see over there with the March is 14 more days until the end of March. All right, you're going to pay back the loan on August 17th. So he's similar to what we saw in the last problem, a whole bunch of numbers referencing days in months. All right, so 14 days to get to the end of March, 30 days to get us all the way through April, 31 to get us all the way through May, 30 to get us through June, 31 to get us through July. Payments being made on August 17th, that's 17 days into August. Grab your calculator, add those days, that's 153. And we're again going to use ordinary, that sets your denominator at 360. Notice, if you will, that your unknown is P. So what we're going to wind up doing is taking the 191.25, which is your interest value, and dividing it by the product of 0.06 times 153 over 360. So again, for those of you who like to do a one-shot calculate, I would recommend 0.06 times 153 divided by 360. That gets you your denominator number. Then I stored it. I use memory on my calculator. I got tired of punching all the digits. Store that in a memory location, then take 191.25 divided by recall. And that's what you see on your screen. And if you do it correctly, you'll find that the amount borrowed in this context was $7,500. So it's using the same formula, manipulating for a different set of unknowns. In this case, that unknown was P. Problem 27, out and done. 28 continues that attack and asks us to find out how much time went by. They didn't give us the interest charge, but we were able to find it. Well, we were informed that we repaid $1,600 for what was a $1,200 loan. So the difference in that represents the interest charge of $400. So 400 goes in for I, 1,200 goes in for P, 0.08 for R. T is your unknown in terms of years. In this case, I multiplied the 1,200 times the 0.08, and that's how the 96 got there. You're going to solve for T if you let me divide both sides of that equation by 96. T comes in at 4.16 rep of 10. You want to round to the nearest tenth, as the problem seemed to indicate. That would take us to 4.2 years. So same formula again, massaging it for whatever unknown you're seeking. In this context, that was time. As I said in the PowerPoint, I don't tend to use the formula that says T equals I over PR. If you use it and like it, that's awesome. For me, it's just as easy to take the I equals PRT and do my manipulations to solve what I need to solve. Takes us out of 28. Let's go get 29. 29 is a problem where we're going to have a partial payment. And what you need to remember on these problems is that first thing that has to happen is you have to pay interest first. All right, so we're going to make a payment of $4,500 after 2 months. And the initial loan balance, the initial amount of the loan was $25,000. The interest rate's 5%. So we're going to find out how much interest we owe on that 2 months before we sent the payment. All right, so we're going to take 25,000 times 0.05 times 2 over 12, 2 months out of 12. And we realize that the interest charge for the 2 months on my full loan of $25,000 is $208.33. That's just calculator gymnastics. 25,000 times 0.05 times 2 divided by 12. Okay, so of that first payment of $4,500, the first $208.33 goes to an interest charge. The balance of the $4,500 payment goes to offset the amount we owe. So we'll subtract the $208.33 from our original, from the $4,500 to find out how much of that payment goes to defray against principal, and we find out that the difference is $4,291.67. So my amount borrowed will change. I no longer will owe $25,000. I will diminish that value by $4,291.67, and I realize that now I owe $20,708.33. Time marches on, and at the end of 6 months, you'll see that we're going to get another payment of $300. So what we're going to do is find out how much of that payment is important in terms of interest charge. So here comes your formula calculations. Now your principal is the $20,708.33. You no longer owe the full $25,000. So this is at an interest rate of 5%. And you're saying, well, geez, Dale, where'd that 4 come from on that chain? Well, you know, this is made at month 6, but if you remember, the first payment was made at month 2. So from 2 to 6, 4 months have passed. So we're calculating interest now on a loan in effect for 4 months of time. So again, grab your trusty calculator. It's 20,708.33 times 0.05 times 4 divided by 12. We're going to realize of that second payment, which amounted to $3,000, $345.14 goes as an interest charge. The balance of the $3,000 payment goes to offset principal to pay back the loan that we still owed. So we'll take $3,000. From it, we will subtract $345.14. We realize that $2,654.86 goes to diminish what we owe. All right, well, as a result of the first payment, we diminished the amount we'd owed down to $20,708.33. From that number, we'll be subtracting $2,654 and change. So my new principal, all right, at the end of that second payment would be the difference between those two numbers, $20,708.33. Take away the $2,654.86. We still owe them at that point in time $18,053.47. All right. So to find the payoff at the end of the 2 years, we'll have to first of all calculate the interest on that $18,053.47. Now, it's important to pay careful attention to time here. Your interest rate's still 5%, but what you're realizing is you made your second payment at month 6. You're paying back the loan at the end of 2 years. So in effect, a year and a half post that second payment. So your $18,053.47 interest calculation is for a span of 1.5 years from month 6 to the end of the 2-year interval for the loan. So your interest charge comes out at $1,354.01 for the remainder of the loan, and you're going to pay it out at the end of year 2. So what are you going to have to pay? We're going to have to pay that $18,053.47 that you still owe, in addition to that interest charge that we just calculated, which is $1,354.01. So to wipe out the loan, we'll have to send them a balance of $19,407.48. And that takes care of problem number 29 for us. All right, we got one more to go. Problem 30. Let's talk about my man, Steve Smith. Similar in terms of what we just did. All right, pay attention to the days. We're going to deal with this at a 360 ordinary interest. So your initial loan was $18,000, but you're sending a payment on day 65. So your first interest calculation is $18,000, the full amount you borrowed, at a rate of 10%, 65 over 360, because you're making your first payment on day 65. That means 325 of that first payment goes to interest. The balance goes to diminish what you owe. All right, so you'll see that we took 325 to interest, and the 2,000 take away 325 means we paid back in effect $1,675 to diminish the amount we owe. So the new principal, 18,000, which was our original loan amount, take away the 1,675. So we now owe $16,325. Go make another payment, baby, on day 90. All right, if you remember, our first payment was on day 65. So to get to day 90, 25 days have passed since the last payment. That's 90 minus 65. So your first step is to find the interest charge. So now your new balance was 16,325, still 10%, 25 over 360. We find that of that second payment of $4,000, $113.37 has to go for interest charges. The balance of the $4,000 payment diminishes the amount we owe. So the amount that goes to interest first, $113.37. $4,000 take away that $113.37 gets us $3,886.63 to pay back our loan. So that goes against the principal. So our new principal will be the $16,325. Take away that $38,86.63. So we still owe $12,438.37. We're going to pay it off at day 120. All right, remember our last payment was on day 90. So on day 120, 30 more days go by to get to that last payoff. So here comes our payoff. First of all, let's calculate our interest. Remember, we only owe $12,438.37 after our second payment. Interest rate at 10%, 30 days, because 30 days have passed from day 90 to get to day 120. All right, calculator time, 12,438.37 times 0.10 times 30 divided by 360. Interest charge for the end, $103.65. So to pay out the loan, you have to repay the balance owed, which is $12,438.37, plus the $103.65. So your last payment, to square everything away, should amount to $12,542.02, and that will help Steve Smith wipe out his debt. And that, my friends, is the conclusion of the stack of review problems to help get ready for your midterm. Should you have questions, send me an email. I will be posting all of these solutions into your resource packet for this unit as well. So I wish you the best as you get ready to study, and let me know if I can help you along the way. Total interest in this last problem is found by simply adding your 3 interest payments. All right, so we're going to add the $103.65, which is our last interest component, We slide back, we see that 113.37, our very first interest component from the beginning of this calculations was 325. So the total interest paid on the entire loan experience is the sum of those three values. So total interest on the loan, $542.02. See you next time.